When it comes to evolution, we often hear two types of selection: natural selection and sexual selection. But what's the difference between the two? Let's take a look at how these forces of nature shape the traits of organisms over time. First, let's talk about natural selection. This is the process by which organisms with traits better suited to their environment survive and reproduce more successfully, passing on their advantageous traits to the next generation. To understand the difference, let's take a step back and define our terms. For example, a male bird's bright plumage might attract the attention of females, but it also makes him a conspicuous target for predators. Sexual selection would favor the evolution of brighter colors in this case, while natural selection would favor the evolution of more muted colors. Ultimately, the balance between these two forces determines the traits that evolve in a given population. Natural selection is the process by which organisms with certain heritable traits tend to leave more offspring than others. Sexual selection is a part of natural selection. Sexual selection is the effect of an organism's characteristics on its ability to obtain mates and subsequently reproduce. In other words, it's a special case of natural selection that only applies to the reproductive system of an organism. For example, in a population of beetles, some might be green while others are brown. If the green beetles are better camouflaged against the leaves of trees, they're less likely to be eaten by birds and more likely to reproduce. Over time, the proportion of green beetles in the population increases because they have a survival advantage. Natural selection acts on the entire organism, favoring traits that increase an individual's fitness or its ability to survive and reproduce in its environment. Now let's turn our attention to sexual selection. This occurs when certain traits make an organism more attractive to potential mates. But unlike natural selection, which favors traits that help an organism survive, sexual selection favors traits that help an organism reproduce. Specifically, sexual selection acts on the traits that are involved in an organism's ability to obtain mates and successfully reproduce. For example, in many species of birds, males compete with each other for access to females. In this case, sexual selection might favor traits that make a male bird more successful in fighting off his rivals, like greater size and strength. In other species, males compete for mates by displaying their brightly colored feathers. Sexual selection can also act on females, favoring traits that help them choose the best mate. For example, in some species of fish, females prefer to mate with males that have elaborate courtship displays. Over time, this can lead to the evolution of elaborate and sometimes bizarre traits that we see in many animals today. So what's the difference between the two types of selection? Both types of selection can act on the same trait. Hey there, thanks for watching. And if you want to learn more about natural selection, check out the video.